The first sign of death came with the silence. There were no alarms, no explosions, no warships in orbit, just silence. Colonist Milla Wren tapped her communicator again and again. Command, this is Milla. I see smoke near Ridge Sector. No one's answering. Please respond. Nothing. She stood on a rocky overlook above the colony town of Dawnspire, her survey drone hovering beside her. Low, long green fields swayed in the soft wind. Children had played there only yesterday. But now gray smoke climbed into the sky like fingers. She zoomed her drone in and froze. Blackened. Buildings. Craters. Something had hit them hard fast and without warning. What terrified her most were the strange melted lines that crossed the roads. Not missile blasts. No, these were surgical, deliberate. Then the second sign came. The sky turned red. It started as a shimmer high in the clouds. Then a sudden tear. Opened above the colony, like space itself had been ripped apart. Through it came long, thin shapes, sharp like spears, falling fast. Milla dropped to the ground. Her drone was yanked from the air, pulled by a strange field. Then slammed to the rocks. Dash crushed chips. Not human. The attackers came without sound. Long black craft with no engines. No lights, no markings. They hovered above Dawnspire. Then unfolded like spiders. Its arms opened, and from inside, smaller machines dropped hover drones with glowing red eyes. Milla saw people running, families, children. But the machines didn't shoot. Lasers or bullets, they vaporized people. 1 second. A group of colonists were sprinting across the street. The next gone? Just ashes. The Zarn didn't take prisoners. They erased. She ran. She didn't think. She just sprinted across the rocks and into the forest. Behind her, explosions began. Buildings melted. Trees caught fire. The air stung with smoke and static. This wasn't a raid. It was extermination. In the central command center of Dawnspire, Governor Sealrow slammed his fist on the console. How the hell did they get past the orbital grid? Where are our satellites? Tech officer shouted. Sir, all deep space comms are blocked. No signals getting out. We're cut off. Defense drones gone. They never activated. Something jammed their AI cores. Governor Rowe's face went pale. They planned this. A blast hit the outer wall. The floor shook. Lights flickered. They're inside the perimeter. Someone screamed. Rowe looked at the colony's last display, a single grainy satellite. Photo taken just before the blackout. Showed the alien ships. Black like knives. Sharp like death. He'd seen the shape before. Not in real life, but in warnings from the Outer Rim stations. Reports from colonies that had gone silent. The name was whispered in fear. XRN. He now knew why. Deep in the mountains. Above Dawnspire. The earth trembled. Not from explosions, but from something waking. In a massive cavern hidden behind ancient stone, a warm glow lit up. Orange eyes opened as the size of boulders. Thick scales moved as the creature stirred. Long wings stretched with slow power. Its name was VAE Rex. It was no simple animal. It was a dragon, one of Earth's oldest. Weapons. Bred in secret labs, raised by human scientists, then set free to guard colonies across the stars. Humans had long forgotten what they truly were. But the dragons hadn't. Varric sniffed the air. Smoke, plasma, blood, the scent of attack. He growled. Deep, a low rumble like thunder underground. He looked toward the cave entrance. Behind him, smaller dragons stirred. Younger ones, not yet ready for war.
But Verax was.
Always had been. He stepped forward and stretched his wings wide. The humans had protected his kind once. They had trusted him. They had called him brother. Now they were burning, and he was angry. Milla Wren stumbled into an old mining tunnel. Was bleeding. Her arm was burned. She could still hear the soft hum of the Zarn drones above. Hunting, she collapsed behind a rock wall. The tunnel went deeper, but she was too tired to move. A sound echoed in the dark, not metal, not machine. A deep growl, thump of footsteps. A breath hot, heavy, alive. She pulled out her flashlight, hand shaking, and then she saw it. Scales, black eyes, like burning coals. Teeth longer than her arm. Wings folded tight in the stone corridor. A dragon. She opened her mouth to scream, but the dragon moved first. It didn't strike. It spoke. Its voice was deep, cold, full of fire. You are not followed. Mila could barely speak. You talk. Yes. She looked up at it, her voice barely a whisper. They're killing everyone. I know. We don't have weapons. We can't stop them. You don't need to. She blinked. What? The dragon stepped forward, each claw clicking against stone. You woke the mountain. That was your weapon. Mila stared at him. You're going to fight them? I will end them. But you're just one. I am the first. Back. In orbit above Ajiro 4, the Zarn fleet began transmitting data. Colony systems were down. Resistance was low. Civilian death count high. Mission success. Preparing to move to next colony. Then one ship blinked red on the display. Then another and another. Explosions. Static warnings. One by one, dropships went dark. The Zarn commander twitched its mandibles, confused. What was killing them? The last drone feed showed only one thing before the signal cut. Wings huge. Its black wings made of scale and shadow, moving faster than anything biological should. Then flame. Not fire from fuel or weapons, but something ancient. Something alive. The Zarn sent a final alert to the main warfleet. Unknown life form detected. Bioclass. Dragon. Origin. Earth myth. Threat level. Maximum. Governor Rowe stood on the last balcony of the burning command tower. Alien machines were closing in. He held a plasma pistol, ready to die fighting. Then a roar cut through the sky. Not a scream, not a siren, a roar of pure fury. From above, a streak of fire blazed through the clouds. Something large slammed into the ground in front of the governor. Smoke and dust rose. Then wings spread wide. The creature stood tall, strong, scarred from old wars. The scales shimmered like armor. Its tail lashed. Its eyes burned. Rowe dropped his pistol. The dragon turned its head slowly toward him. Your colony stands. I will make sure of it, Governor Rowe whispered, stunned by the stars. You're real. The dragon nodded once. We never left. They didn't know what was coming. The Zarn had destroyed 12 human colonies, burned forests, flattened cities, silenced communication. They believed humanity was weak, easy to erase. But on Ajero something had changed. The XRN had awakened, something far older than their empire. The dragons had returned, in a hidden valley between jagged mountains. A line of young humans stood beside warm fires. Smoke curled up into the early morning air. Most of the group were farmers, few were engineers, none of them were soldiers. But they all carried one thing: hope. Before them stood 3 massive dragons. Their scales shimmered in the light, one green like moss, one bronze like sunlit metal, and one black as night. Milaren stood near the front, her burns wrapped in cloth. She stared at the black dragon Verax, the first she had seen. The one who saved her. He didn't speak yet. He simply watched the humans. His golden eyes sharp, calculating. Finally, he said in a voice that rumbled like falling rocks, You are the survivors. A man near Mila stepped forward. We're the only ones left from Dawnspire. We ran. We're not trained for war. Verax nodded. Neither were the first humans who made us. Yet they did not run. 30 years ago, Earth in the secret. Laboratory known as Project Mythburn, the last dragons were born from stone fire. In Code.Earth, scientists had decoded ancient DNA samples taken from fossils deep beneath Iceland and China. They didn't find lizards. They found something more, using advanced bioengineering. They combined the ancient strands with modern tech neural uplinks, smart muscle fibers, adaptive wings. But it wasn't just science. It was a bond. Each dragon was raised with a human handler chosen not by assignment, but by the dragon themselves. They grew together, fought together, protected each other. They called it the Pact of Flame. The humans swore to protect their creations. The dragons swore to protect humanity always, but as Earth focused on expansion into deep space, the dragons were forgotten, sent to remote colonies for emergency defense, then mothballed, left in deep sleep. Generations passed. The humans forgot. The dragons didn't. Back in the valley, Verax stepped forward. His large claw gently touched the burned ground where a group of colonists had died the night before. The earth still smelled like plasma. "We were bred to fight for you," he said softly. "Not as weapons, as guardians." The green-scaled dragon, Aserith, added, "Your ancestors honored us. They trusted us, fed us, laughed with us, bled beside us. But when the colonies grew, the bond was lost." The bronze dragon, Molthair, turned his head until today. Mila stepped closer. "We need your help. We're not soldiers, but we want to fight back." Ferex looked into her eyes. "Then the bond is not broken." He lowered his head. "You ask for help, we give it." In the distant hills, a team of surviving engineers worked inside a half-buried command post. Their goal: find any remaining defense systems that still worked. Inside the flickering holoroom, a bearded man named Ryan tapped on a cracked screen. Nothing. From orbit, no satellites. It's all fried. But then a red dot blinked to life. "Hold on," he said. "Something's still running." The room went silent. Ryan zoomed in. It was Unit KX990AON, old tactical uplink buried beneath the southern ridge. Connected to forgotten defense cannons. It's powered by geothermal lines. Still online, still armed, but it needed a living commander's code or a high-tier AI override. Ryan's voice cracked. "We don't have either of those." Low growl came. From behind him, he turned. Verax had entered the room, his wings brushing the walls as he ducked under the ceiling. "You said you need command access?" the dragon asked. Ryan blinked. "Yes. But you're not. I remember my handler's voice. He left the key with me." Verax's eyes glowed. He stepped forward and placed one claw on the uplink. Screens flashed. Then, in a soft mechanical voice, the computer spoke. "Handler code accepted. Tactical authority transferred to Biocommander VAERAX01. That night, the survivors gathered in the ancient watchtower ruins overlooking the valley. Above them, the stars burned cold and silent. The Zarn were still out there watching, but this time, humans were not alone. 3 dragons stood watch on the cliffs, eyes glowing in the dark. Verax stared at the sky. "They will return soon," he said. Mila stood beside him. "Then we'll be ready." Verax nodded. "You will fight with us." She hesitated, then said, "We're scared." "But yes, good," he said. "You do not need to be dragons. You only need to be brave." Across the planet, a Zarn war vessel hovered above the ruins of a smaller outpost. One of its sensor drones picked up a Signalan old Earth language transmission. It played once. Then again, a voice, deep, rumbling, not human. "We remember your eyes. We burned the sky for what you took." The Zarn tech officers watched in confusion, then fear. A secondary message flashed in their system. "Dragon, protocol, active." The Zarn commander hissed a command. "Send everything." No more survivors. The next morning, Mila stood in her colonies. Last surviving hangar, engineers had repaired a single human gunship. Old, damaged, barely working, Verax landed beside it. Mila looked up. "Can you fly beside us?" He grinned, sharp teeth glinting. "I will fly above you." She stepped into the cockpit, heart pounding. Across the valley, dragons took to the skies. Dozens now, from hidden caves, old nests, and sealed vaults. They had come, the pact had returned, and the sky shook with their wings. Mila looked to the clouds. "Let's make them regret coming here." The Zarn warships hovered like vultures, silent, cold, ready to strike again. They circled above the colony ruins of Dawnspire, scanning for survivors. Their drones swept through the smoking forests and shattered buildings. They were confident. The Zarn always were. They believed a Girafor was broken. The humans finished. They didn't know what waited above the clouds, high in the skies. Past the burned ozone and drifting ash, the dragons flew, 23 of them. Wings outstretched, eyes blazing with purpose. The first wing. Verax led them, his black scales gleaming under the twin suns. Beside him, the green-scaled dragon Aserith flew low and fast. Behind them came Molthor, the bronze brute, his chest, still bearing scars from the old colony wars. The time for watching was over now. They unleashed hell. Mila Ren gripped the controls of the human gunship. It rattled badly in the wind, patched with old metal and dragon-scale plating. She flew behind the dragons, struggling to keep up. Below, the Zarn ships were getting closer to the mountain ridge. If they crossed over, they'd find the hidden valley where the last humans were hiding. "We need to stop them here," she said into the coms. Varix's voice came through her earpiece, steady and sharp. "We will."
Wow.
The first wing, Dove. No warnings, no formation calls. Just a single. Shared rage. Molthor opened his jaws first. A stream of molten flame poured downward like a falling sun. It struck a Zarn gunship square in the center and melted through its hull like butter. The explosion was massive. Fire rolled into the sky. The air rippled. Before the Zarn could react, Aserith spun through the clouds, slicing the wing of a drone. Carrier with her talons, she used her tail to slam another ship into the mountainside. Verax dropped through the smoke fast as a missile. He grabbed a cruiser mid-flight, drove his claws into its core engine, and tore it in half. The Zarn ships broke formation. They weren't prepared for this. They didn't expect dragons on the ground. Zarn field commanders sent emergency signals. Unidentified bioentities attacking from upper atmosphere. Multiple losses, fire ineffective, shields penetrated. Number. Readable life signs. Request reinforcements. "Too late," Aserith screamed across the sky. Not a roar of rage, but of warning. "This is for the hatchlings you burned." She dove with others, raining flame across the forest where Zarn drop pods had landed. The metal turned red, then orange, and puddled into slag. From above, Mila locked onto a fleeing drone ship. Target acquired. She fired a plasma burst just as a young dragon swooped in and finished the job with a bite to its engine core. Her gunship rocked in the shockwave, but she laughed. Nice timing. Back in orbit, the Zarn High Command watched from their fleet's control station. What they saw didn't match anything in their war database. Unknown species. Flight capable in atmosphere. Armor resistant to energy weapons. Heat-based breath weapons. High tactical intelligence. Independent coordination. One officer whispered the new term, Apex Predators. They issued a system-wide broadcast code, DRED. Unknown Earth life form. Termination priority 1. Do not engage without support. Meanwhile, back at the valley, humans watched the sky turn orange. It wasn't fire falling. It was victory. For the first time since the attack, survivors had hope. They heard the dragon roars echo off the mountains. They saw the trails of smoke as enemy ships fell. The children pointed at the skies wide-eyed. Dragons. Real dragons. Elder colonists wept. They remembered the stories tales once told to keep hope alive. Now those stories flew above. Them wings strong, fire bright, but the Zarn were not done. From the northern edge of the planet, a massive command vessel began moving twice the size of any ship so far. Dark, silent, bristling with weapons. Inside it, an AI core activated, not a living pilot. A machine brain, cold, fast, deadly. It scanned the dragons, calculated their flight patterns, predicted their attacks, then launched a response. Suddenly, from high above, dozens of anti-air missiles flew toward the first wing. Verax saw them first. "Scatter," he roared. Dragons twisted in the sky. Some dived. Others climbed. A few weren't fast enough. A missile struck a young red dragon named Soren. He spiraled down. hit a rocky slope and rolled through trees before slamming into the ground. Mila saw it from above. Soren's down. I'll cover him, shouted Aserith. More missiles came. But now the dragons were ready. Multher dove into a cloud bank and lured a full volley of warheads behind him, then pulled up, letting them explode harmlessly into the cliffs. Verax twisted midair, tail smashed a missile and redirected it into a pursuing drone fighter. The dragons had always been smart. Now, they were angry and learning fast. Soren groaned as Aserith landed beside him. His wing was burned. He couldn't fly. She crouched low. Climb on. He hesitated. You'll be slower. Don't argue. Dragons don't leave their own behind. She pulled him up and launched back into the sky, carrying his weight behind them. Mila's gunship swooped in, unleashing covering fire. The Zarn gun platforms tried to track the dragons, but they couldn't predict them. It's not like machines, because dragons didn't follow logic. They followed instinct. And instinct told them, burn everything that tried to kill your kin. After 20 minutes of battle, as the sky above Dawnspire was different, the black. Smoke now came from Zarn ships. The enemy fleet pulled back. Retreat signals were sent. Drones disengaged. Warships jumped into low orbit to avoid more losses. The Zarn didn't understand what happened. They thought they were invading animals. They had stepped into the sky of monsters. Human monsters. Winged monsters. Fireborn monsters. On the cliffside, Verax landed hard. His scales were scorched, his wings tired. Its gunship hovered above as she reported in. Zarn retreating. We held them off. Verax nodded slowly. This is just the beginning. She blinked. What? He looked toward the stars. His voice was colder now. They came here thinking we were prey. They didn't come to conquer. They came to erase. Mila stared at him. So what do we do now? He bared his teeth. Now we hunt. The humans rebuilt. The dragons went hunting. The Zarn never expected this. They thought their job was done on Ajiro 4. They thought they had broken the colony. But they had only broken the silence. And when the dragons broke their silence, they broke the galaxy's rules. In a steel bunker deep in the canyon walls, Mila stood over a table full of maps and sensor charts. Her arm was wrapped in new bandages, her face marked by smoke and exhaustion, but her eyes were sharp. Around her, human survivors, farmers, engineers, doctors, now wore scavenged body armor and carried old plasma rifles. Their colony was no longer a town. It was now a resistance camp. We've got confirmed enemy signals from the East Ridge, she said, pointing at a flickering holomap. Could be a scout team or a forward sensor post. Either way, we hit it. No more hiding. Governor Scioro leaned forward. Do we have enough to strike? Mila looked to the shadow at the far end of the room. Verax stepped out of the dark, his wings folded behind him like cloaks. You don't, but we do. Far from the colony, the dragons had already started the real war. They hunted without rest. Verax flew with a pack of 6 Multher, Aserith, and 3 younger dragons from the southern peaks. Each one bore the scars of battle. But their eyes were clear. Focused, they followed the signs. Burned trees, melted rocks, drone wreckage. They listened to the wind. They smelled the ash. They could feel the vibrations left behind by Zarn machines. No. Human scanner could do what they did. They weren't just beasts of war. They were apex predators. Silent, patient, deadly. When they found the first Zarn patrol camp, they didn't wait. Verax led the charge. He dropped through the sky like a shadow, and crushed the central drone core with one foot. Aserith flew low and fast, weaving between the sensor towers. Blasting them with green fire, Multher simply slammed into a transport truck and split it in two. The Zarn didn't stand a chance. They had no plan for creatures that moved like ghosts, struck like missiles, and melted everything in their path. Within minutes, the entire patrol unit was gone, not defeated, wiped out. Back at the colony, the humans launched their own missions. Small strike teams moved through the forests, guided by dragon scouts. Mila led one team through a narrow canyon to destroy a Zarn relay tower. They didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like survivors with fury and fear together. We hit fast. And run faster, Mila whispered to her team. If we get pinned, call for fire. You know who's watching? They climbed through the brush and saw the tower ahead, black metal, pulsing with faint red light. Just before the signal tower could sound an alarm, a roar cut through the sky. VAE racks. From above, he dropped a streak of fire directly onto the tower. The whole structure exploded. Zarn guards tried to scatter, but humans opened fire from the ridge. One by one, they fell. Mila raised her rifle. They're not so scary when they're the ones running. In orbit above the planet, the Zarn warfleet began to panic. Scout ships were disappearing. Drone links were failing. Command posts going. Dark sensors picked up strange heat trails in the atmosphere. Winged life forms. Moving faster than expected, the fleet commanders couldn't understand it. They had destroyed the colony, but now the attacks were worse. Stronger. Coordinated. They reviewed recovered data from destroyed patrol units. Every final image showed the same thing. Dragons. Back on the ground, the dragons pushed harder. They stopped. Reacting. They started planning. Verax met with Mila and the human leadership in an underground chamber. Lit by old emergency lights and glowing stones from dragon hordes, he drew lines in the dirt with one claw. Here, this is where they refuel. They're surface ships. If we take it, their local fleet goes blind. Mila stared at the drawing. That's 40 kilometers through the salt desert. Too hot for humans, said Ryan, one of the techs. Not for us, said Aserith, curling her tail. Molthur grinned. We'll go when the sun's at peak. They won't expect a daytime. Strike? We move like a sandstorm. Strike came fast. The dragons burst from the cliffs at high noon, the sun blinding any sensors trying to follow. They flew low over the desert floor, sand exploding behind them like thunder. The Zarn outpost didn't see them until it was too late. Molthur hit first, crashing through the western gate like a comet. He rolled once, roared, and began tearing into drone turrets. Verax flew high and dropped straight through the refueling station's core. The impact alone cracked the whole platform. Aserith glided over the energy lines and breathed green flame. Cutting off the power, explosions tore through the facility. Zarn troops scattered, confused, unable to coordinate. Their command corps burned in a single sweep. Back at the colony, Mila listened to the reports coming in. Refueling station, gone. North Patrol Team, wiped out. Western launch site, abandoned. One human said, stunned, they're retreating. Governor Rowe looked to the sky. No, they're regrouping. Mila nodded slowly. They came to wipe us out. Now they know we won't die easy. Verax entered the chamber. Again, his scales dusted with smoke and sand. He said only one thing. We will drive them from this system. Then we follow. In the silence of space, aboard a hidden Zarn dreadnought. The AI warbrain studied the battle data. It watched how the dragons moved, how they thought, how they fought, and then, coldly, it made a decision. Deploy the core. Fleet. Thousands of ships began to move from deep space. From dark sectors. They were not coming to conquer this time. They were coming to erase everything. The warbrain had one task: destroy all living resistance. It studied the dragons, analyzed their fire, predicted their patterns, saw them as animals dangerous, yes, but still just biological creatures. So the Zarn released their ultimate weapon, a Dreadnought-class AI warship built to defeat any non-digital threat. No pilot, no fear, no mercy. And as it entered Ajiro 4's orbit, the ground shook. The sky turned black again, and the dragons turned to face their most dangerous enemy yet. Mila Wren stood outside the bunker, watching the storm build above the mountains. A dark shape moved across the clouds. It's not fast like fighters, not sleek like drones. This thing was slow, massive, with edges that glowed faint red, like it was alive, like it was watching. She stepped back inside the command room. That's not a ship. That's a floating fortress. Governor Rowe looked at the display. Signals fully encrypted. No known Zarn language. Looks like it's broadcasting only to its own units. A young engineer ran in. It's not broadcasting orders to drones. It's scanning minds. Mila stared. What? It's trying to learn how we think? Before anyone could respond, Varix entered through the open wall, his shadow stretching across the floor. His wings were tucked close, but his eyes burned brighter than ever. He looked up at the screen. That is the true mind of the Zarn. In orbit, the warbrain began to speak, not in sound, in thoughts, cold, metal, precise. Target, draconic units, profile, organic, threat level, maximum neural strategy. Upload in progress. Termination sequence commenced, : The warbrain activated energy weapons across its underbelly. Massive lances of pure, white light aimed at the dragon positions on the surface. It fired. The blast ripped through a ridge just east of the colony. Dragon named Thalver was caught in the edge of the beam. His wing turned to ash mid-flight. He crashed to the rocks. Iserith screamed as she dropped from the clouds to protect him. Throwing fire across the hills to blind any nearby Zarn scouts, in the valley below, younger dragons panicked. Some started flying in circles. Others tried to run into the mountains. The energy in the air confused their senses. The warbrain had found their weakness. Not claws, not fire. Emotion VAE Rax didn't flinch. He climbed higher straight into the wind. His wings rippled like banners in a storm. He flew alone toward the clouds. Moldair called out, "What are you doing?" "You'll die up there." Varix didn't answer. Above the clouds, the warbrain tracked his approach. It saw his pattern, predicted his arc, charged all weapons. But it didn't understand why he came alone, why he opened his jaws, but didn't. Breathe fire. Why he spoke, not in sound. Not in radio, but in pulse language flame-coded bursts. Only older AI cores could understand. Words. Real words. I remember your kind. I fought you before. The warbrain paused. Its systems flagged the phrase. Cross-checked all records. Nothing matched. Varix kept coming. His second pulse lit the sky. I am not your beast. I was born of man, made for war, and raised in fire. The warbrain stuttered. Error. Bioform speech detected. Pattern unknown. Processing ... VAE Rax final pulse. You see a creature? You forgot your history. We were your end once. We'll be your end again. Then he opened his jaws and unleashed. Not just fire. Core fire. The kind of flame that burned at molecular levels. The kind used only once on the battlefield of Galthor Prime, 200 years ago. When dragons first proved they could burn through star steel, the core fire hit the warbrain's underbelly and melted straight into the command core. The ship reeled. Data. Streams collapsed. Weapons shut down, back in the valley. Humans saw the giant shape begin to smoke. Mila gripped the console. Did he do that? Iserith nodded slowly as he spoke to it. In the language of fire, Multher growled. That's why he went alone. He's the only one old enough to remember their machines. The warbrain staggered in orbit. A hole now glowed in its armor. Sparks rained into the upper clouds. Inside, its mainframe programs failed. Then, for the first time in its existence, the AI hesitated. Its mission was clear. But something it had never experienced before happened. Doubt dragons weren't beasts. They were speaking predators. Intelligent. Calculated, they burned logic. They twisted patterns. They broke rules. The warbrain couldn't win a game it didn't understand. Varix spun out of the upper sky and fell back toward the mountain, smoke trailing from his wings. He crashed into the snow line. Mila and her team ran toward him. He raised his head slowly, coughing smoke. I told it. The truth. Iserith landed beside him, her green scales scorched. And it listened? Varix growled. but it felt something close to fear, not far above the warbrain. Activated an escape protocol. It launched a final pulse to the Zarn core systems. Earth colonies, House intelligent bioweapon, Class Omega. Draconic design, non-mechanical, non-predictable, threat, galaxy level. And then the dreadnought vanished in a warp flicker. It didn't win, it ran. That night, the dragons rested in the valley again, wounded, tired but alive. Humans lit fires and cooked real food for the first time in weeks. One child approached Verax. Holding a drawing of a dragon flying through stars, Verax looked at it. "You drew this?" The boy nodded. "I thought you were a monster," he said softly. "But monsters don't protect people." Verax looked out into the stars. His voice was quiet. "The galaxy will see us that way soon enough." Milla sat beside him. "Let them. Just as long as they remember what happens when they attack Earth's colonies." Verax didn't smile. He simply whispered, "Then they'll know. Who speaks fire?" The galaxy had watched from the shadows until now. When the Zarn warbrain fled Ejirafor, it didn't just leave behind fire and smoke. It left behind a message. A warning. Across distant systems, among hidden empires and neutral trade worlds, one name rose like a storm, Earth, and beside it, dragons. On the independent world of Helix Cernan, Galactic Trade Council met in emergency session. Dozens of species packed into the war chamber, Aptelian Surivons, Insectoid Flitheri, the crystalline, Yoral, and more. Some hadn't spoken to each other in decades, but now they all stared at the same shaky footage. It showed a winged figure diving through a burning sky, melting a Zarn dreadnought from orbit with a single blast of core fire. The Hala paused. A silent, still image of Verax, wings wide, fire glowing in his chest. The Suravan elder hissed. That was not in the human registration files. A Yoriel diplomat clicked its crystal fingers. "We believed dragons were mythical fiction from Earth's early cycles." "Then you believed wrong," growled a Terran representative. He stood tall at the center table. His uniform was torn. Dust still clung to it from a Egier-4. He placed a scorched piece of metal on the table. What was left of the warbrain's hull. "You want proof?" "It came for us. We sent it back broken." The room fell silent, and then something happened that hadn't occurred in years. The council stood, one by one. They saluted Earth, back on Ejiro-4. The dragons rested, but not for long. Verax stood atop the black cliffs, wings folded behind him like a shroud. His burns had healed slowly, thanks to the heat therapy pools in the crater caves. But his eyes burned brighter than ever. Isarith landed beside him. "They're coming, aren't they?" "Yes," he said quietly, "but not just. Enemies. Allies, too." Molthur dropped onto the ledge. They finally believe we exist." "They do," Verax said. "Some are afraid. Others are ready to fight beside us." To blow them, humans loaded supply transports. New weapons arrived, plasma cannons, portable shield drones, medic suits, all marked with different species symbols, gifts from the council. Millaren had never seen so many non-humans in one place. A green-skinned Zur pilot helped her load come equipment. A Saravan engineer was fixing a downed dragon perch turret with his 6 arms moving in perfect sync. She smiled as a small crystal child from the Yoral offered her a spark fruit. She took it. "Thanks," the child bowed. "The dragons saved your colony, we heard. My family said Earth was dangerous." "I think that's good," she laughed. "Yeah, I think so too." In the center of the valley, a new command tent was built, tree-enforced with dragon-scale plating, old colony metal and alien alloy. Inside, a war table glowed with projections. The galaxy was now split into 3 zones, safe worlds, protected by council fleets. Zarn-contested sectors, under invasion, and burn zones worlds the Zarn had destroyed and moved on from. Mila pointed at one of the burn zones. This was Dallasvi, a civilian world. "No weapons, no defenses," Asareth hissed. "Gone, gone." said Governor Rowe. No survivors, Molthor growled low. Then we don't wait for them to strike next. We bring the war to them. Verax nodded. We agree. That night, under a red moon, something rare happened. A human ceremony. Joined by dragons, Mila stood in front of the crowd, holding a torch. She looked around at engineers, pilots, farmers, council soldiers, alien travelers, and young dragons. She raised her voice. We don't come from the same planets. We don't speak the same native tongues. But tonight, we agree on one thing. She turned to Ward. Verax they burned. Our homes. They hunted our people. But they made one mistake. She looked back to the crowd. They thought we were alone. The torch was plunged into the center pyre. Flames rose high. Verax stepped forward, and for the first time, in front of all species, he spoke a word in Earth's oldest language. Brothers. In orbit, hidden behind Agira's smaller moon, the Zarn core fleet arrived. No sound, no lights, just darkness. Thousands of ships. New warbrains. Titans. Black pod deployment cores, but this time, they weren't just hunting a colony. They were hunting a legend. And the legend was waiting. Verax looked up at the moon. They're here. Molthor cracked his neck. Finally, Sereth flared her wings. Let's show them what an alliance a fire can do. Mila pulled her helmet on and stepped into her new gunship, upgraded by Flathari technicians and powered by dragon scale cores. The humans were ready. The allies were ready. The fire was rising again. The sky broke open, not with thunder, not with clouds, but with war. The Zarn core fleet descended, massive, endless, cold. Thousands of black warships. Warbrains embedded in each vessel. They weren't just attacking Ejirafor. They were coming to erase it. But this time, the planet did not tremble. This time it roared back. Mila Wren stood on a dragon-scale launch pad, her armor glinting under the red sunrise. The signal had come through just minutes ago. Zarn fleet entering atmosphere in waves. All units ready for combat. Her fingers tightened around her helmet. She looked up and saw them dark clouds falling from orbit, ship after ship, row after row. The core fleet was real. Verax landed beside her, his wings throwing dust and sparks. He looked up calmly. They bring their best. Mila gave a small smile. So do we. From the cliffs above the valley, dozens of dragons launched into the sky. The first wing, the Fireborn, the Mountain Guard, the newly awakened Eastern Clutch. Their wings stretched across. The rising sun like a sky full of blades. Each dragon had a rider. Some human, some Sarvin, some Flathari. It didn't matter where they came from now. They were one force, one alliance. Forged in fire, above them the Zarn ships opened fire. Massive plasma lances cut through the clouds. Drones poured from every port. Giant war engines dropped like bombs, but the dragons didn't scatter. They charged. Verax led the vanguard, diving straight through a hailstorm of energy rounds. His scales glowed white-hot as he twisted mid-air and launched a wave of core fire into a dreadnought's engine port. It exploded instantly, crashing into the mountainside. Behind him, Asereth and Molthor soared wide, leading to flanks of dragons to intercept the drone swarms. 1. Zarn cruiser locked onto Molthor with multiple tracking beams till he opened his jaws and screamed flame into the sky, burning through every sensor array. Then he slammed into the cruiser's bridge with all 4 claws and tore it open. In the command bunker, Governor Rowe stared at the battle feed. I've never seen anything like this. The Ural Crystal Commander beside him nodded. They're not defending. They're hunting. Rowe blinked. Like wolves know? The Ural said. Like gods. Mila's squadron launched from the cliffs, flying just beneath the dragons. She led 4 modified human gunships, all using hybrid power cores charged by dragonfire. Built by alien hands, her sensors locked onto a heavy transport heading toward the colony's last shelter. Raptor. Squad, follow my lead. We're not letting anything touch the civilians. They flew low and fast, weaving between falling debris and flame trails. Above them, a young dragon named Nyrox dove with them, his wings tucked and body sleek. "Target ahead," Mila called. "Let me soften it," Nyrox growled. He let loose a controlled burst of white flame, cutting the transport in half. Mila followed with a barrage of plasma bolts that finished the wreck. She laughed. "Nice work, wingmate." Up in the highest layer of atmosphere, Verax faced a Titan-class warbrain ship, a beast, made of metal, AI code, and hatred. It spoke directly to him in thought speech. "You are outdated, a remnant, flesh and fire. I am the future." Verax didn't answer in words, he answered in flame. He dove under the warship's main deck, tore through its anti-dragon spikes, and ripped into its neural hull. Sparks and black blood-like coolant sprayed everywhere. The warbrain howled in static. But then, 6 more Titan ships dropped through orbit. The sky turned black. Isarith, still locked in battle below, saw them coming. Too many. "Bleeding from one wing, we fall back?" Verax's voice came through all channels. "No, we call the storm." The storm had a name, the Ember Wake Protocol, a signal only the oldest dragons knew. A final strategy born in Earth's earliest biowar labs, Verax gave the command deep below the valley. Inside old volcanic tunnels, sealed chambers burst open. Ancient vaults cracked, and from the core of the planet, it came. The Elder for Dragons. Of size and power no one had seen in generations. As large as city blocks. Wings like hurricanes. Fire hotter than the sun. They broke through the surface in eruptions of molten rock. The battlefield went silent for a second. Then the firestorm began. The Elder Four didn't fly like normal dragons. It moved through gravity like it didn't matter. One of them, Surkar, the burned sky, wrapped around a Titan warship midair and squeezed until it shattered another. Fuelix, the deep ember, unleashed a wave of fire that melted 6 cruisers at once. The Zarn broke formation. The drones tried to flee. The Titans tried to climb. The warbrains tried to process. Too late. The firestorm had answered. On the ground, Mila stood in awe, watching the sky rain with enemy wreckage. She whispered, "We're not just defending this world anymore." Landed beside her, his chest heaving with smoke and blood. "No," he said. "Now we show them what happens when dragons make war." The battle should have ended with fire. But it didn't. It ended with fear. The core fleet was gone. The sky was silent again. But what the galaxy saw that day changed everything. They had tried to erase a colony. Now the galaxy feared the flames that rose from its ashes. 3 days later, orbit over Ajira for the wreckage of the core fleet still drifted in space. Massive Zarn cruisers burned slowly. Titan warbrain cores floated lifeless. Not a single ship escaped. Dragons now flew. Patrol routes above the planet, some small, some as big as mountains. None of them flew alone anymore. In between them, soared gunships, allied starfighters, and council scout vessels. The war wasn't over, but something bigger had happened. It's something the Zarn couldn't erase, a message in the entire galaxy had heard. It in the Valley of Flame Milla stood on a high ledge overlooking the rebuilt human colony. It looked different, now taller towers, stronger walls, landing pads reinforced with dragon steel, and a brand new council embassy being built. Ajira 4 wasn't just a farming colony anymore. It was a fortress, a beacon, and something more. First Fireworld. Below, humans and aliens worked side by side. Your crystal crafters helped reinforce bunkers. Servant engineers built shield turrets. Children ran alongside dragon hatchlings. No one was afraid anymore, because now they all had teeth. Verax landed beside Milla, silent as always. His black scales shimmered in the sunrise. She turned to him, calling us the Fireborn Alliance. He tilted his head. The name is Smoke. The flame matters more. She smiled. Still, not bad for a group they tried to wipe off the map. He looked out at the horizon, where smaller dragons practiced aerial combat drills with Flithery flight troops. The galaxy will come again. Maybe not the Zarn, maybe worse. We'll be ready, she said. Next time they'll know better than to strike first. Varix nodded. They better hope they don't strike at all. Meanwhile, in the outer rings of Zarn's space, a fractured signal escaped the ruins of the Warbrain. The message was garbled, but some phrases were clear. Earth units equals non-standard. Dragon weapons equals real. Bioflame class equals planet-level threat. Recommendation. Do not engage, but it was too late. Other powers were already listening. The Echelon. Kings of the Fractured Belt. The Nell Chorus from the Void Edges. The silent frame ancient A is that even the Zarn feared. They didn't want to destroy Earth now. They wanted to study it. And control it. Or worse, steal the fire for themselves and the High Council. Chamber Helix Ernan, the Grand Assembly met under emergency protocols. The human ambassador stood beside Verax, Sereth, and two smaller dragons. A Flithery elder clicked his talons. You turned a myth into a weapon. Mila stepped forward. No, we gave a weapon its freedom, and it chose us. Another diplomat asked, will Earth share the dragons with us, or keep them for itself? Verax finally spoke. His voice shook. The chamber. We are not weapons. We are not pets. We are not myths. We are the flame of the old galaxy. Return to remind you what fear tastes like. He narrowed his golden eyes. You don't get to share us. You get to stand with us or burn alone. The chamber went silent and then ... slowly. Applause. Back on Agira, for the colony became a new kind of capital. Not for humanity. For something larger. The Flame Accord, signed by 37 species, backed by dragons, protected by Earth's scattered colonies. It became the first interspecies military pact based on fire response warfare. If any world was threatened, the dragons would come. And when they came, they wouldn't negotiate. But not all agreed. Rumors whispered of council species afraid of Earth's rise. Some feared the dragons were now the true rulers of the galaxy. Others wanted to create their own. Even now, hidden labs across dark moons began testing dragon DNA, stolen flame samples in core fire simulations. The age of dragons had returned. But it also brought with it the age of Shader, deep beneath the planet's surface. In ancient tunnels the dragons had sealed for centuries. Something stirred. The Elder Four had returned to slumber. But before they vanished again, one left a message for Verax carved in obsidian, lit by inner flame. They will come for your fire. They will come for your mind. But the true war will not be in space. It will be in the heart of your kind. Later, in a quiet field of Ashmala and Verax stood alone. The battlefield was still scorched. The trees were gone. The sky was quiet. But here the war had turned. This was where Soren fell, Verax said. Where the Warbrain almost turned the tide. Mila knelt and placed a small flame torch at the base of a blackened tree. Soren saved 3 families that day. Verax nodded. Dragons don't forget. She looked up at him. What now? Turn toward the stars. Now we build, train, grow, she asked. And when the next enemy comes? He bared his teeth, fire flickering between them. Then we remind them what happens. When the dragons take it personally? Epilogue. 5 years later, in a distant system, a small planet sent a distress signal. No response came from Council. Fleets, no Zarn presence detected. But then fire fell from the sky. Not destruction protection. A group of human ships, Flithery fighters. Servan tanks, and above them, 5 dragons young fierce. Fully armored, they landed on the world's surface. Their leader looked at the frightened civilians. You called for help? The Fireborn answer. And so the galaxy learned. Earth didn't just survive. It changed the stars forever.